All right, we're going to start our third exercise in the surface modeling portion of our lessons here. And we're going to be creating a phone case. So we're going to get started by sketching the outline of a phone shape. So I've already started a sketch on the top plane. And we're going to first create a rectangle from the center point out. So make sure you choose that as your option for the rectangle tool. And then attach it to the point of origin. And we're going to be making elongated rectangle here. It's taller than it is wide. And now we're going to create some construction lines to divide both horizontally and vertically. So I'll go ahead and get that construction line or construction option and then the line tool. We're going to attach it to the point of origin and then do a vertical to the midpoint of the top, then escape out of the tool, go back in it. So construction line, this time horizontally. All right, now we're going to make a corner arc. So it's going to round off our rectangle, and we're going to use the conic option. And we're going to just find a spot here in the corner and attach it to the horizontal line at the top, and then the vertical line on the side. And then the virtual sharp is the thing that stretches out the arc. We're just going to place that somewhere. Well, actually, we're going to attach it to what would be the corner of the rectangle. So click there to attach it, and then enter to accept the 0.5. Now we're going to trim away. Actually, let's go ahead and mirror. We're going to mirror this arc on all the rest of the four corners. So choose the mirror tool. Select the, let's do the vertical line first, and then click on the arc to mirror it on the other side. So now we have two. We're going to get out of the tool and then back in the tool. This time select a horizontal line. Then we can mirror the two top arcs to the bottom just by clicking on them. So now you have all four corners rounded. We're going to use the trim tool to trim away the extra lines here in the corner. Let's get rid of those. And then actually what we could do, let me just undo what I just did. Oh, actually they're not separate lines, so we got to do this. Yeah, go ahead and trim these away. I thought there would be a shortcut, but there isn't. Now we're going to create some construction lines. I'm going to go ahead and attach it. Oh, it's all right. I'm going to go back in and undo that. Make sure this is a construction line. You can always make it a construction line later by selecting it and then toggling the construction option on. But let's go ahead and do it now. So there's one line. I'm going to do the corners. That is a construction line, even though it doesn't look like it's dotted. Okay, so why did we do this? Actually, I think I only needed it on one corner, but we're going to do it on all four. All right, so now what we need to do is make a constraint that is equal. So we want both lines in the corner equal. All right, so if we define one length, it's going to affect all of them. All right, moving on to the next step. Now we're going to dimension so that we have the correct size. I'll start with the top here measurement. All right, from this point to this point. All right. One thing we forgot is we should be in inches. So I'm going to place that measurement for now. Just place it as is, and we're going to go into the settings here and see what our units are. So we want to change from millimeters this time to inches. Get back in our sketch. Already it changed from millimeters, now we have an inch value. This is supposed to be 2.5 inches. All right, and then from the very top to the bottom, I'm just going to select the corners here. It's supposed to be 6 inches. And then the outsides, I'll go ahead and do this on the bottom. From one side to the other, this is supposed to be 3.5. All right, it should be completely defined. Press the check mark to accept it. All right, so we have an outline of our phone, and the next thing we're going to do is create a new sketch on the right plane. I'm going to be sketching something that's pretty small. It's going to eventually be attached to this side of the phone outline, so I'm going to go ahead and view normal the sketch plane. And I'm just going to sketch a couple of construction lines because I know the general size that I want this to be. And on purpose, I'm going to avoid attaching it to any lines. I'm just going to eyeball it and give it a length of 0.125 is good. There, and then I'll draw another one. This one's 0.4-ish. There, okay. This just gives me a scale that I really need in order to get the dimensions just as I'm sketching close. First thing I'm going to do is add a conic arc, and I want it to be horizontal, constrained to the point of origin. So I'm just going to reference that by hovering over it and then drag out that dotted yellow line. So it's somewhere along this line, and it's going to start close to the end point of this construction line that I just created. So I'm just going to click there to place it. And then it's going to be going pretty far up the side here. So about right here, almost halfway actually, so right there. And then this is eventually going to be attached to the other drawing. So I'm just going to click it right there for now. And I'll go ahead and attach that while I'm thinking about it. So just accept the 0.5, and then I'll go ahead and create the pierce relationship. Go and find this point here, which is the virtual sharp point. So I'm going to click that, and then I need to orbit in order to see this is the line I want it to attach it to in my other drawing. So click on that and it will attach there. So the virtual sharp point, which is that thing that pulls the curve out, should be pierced through to the other drawing attached to that line there. I'm going to view normal to sketch plane. And then continue sketching. The next thing I need is a vertical line that's attached here. So I'm just going to grab the line tool. It's just a small line segment attached there. Make sure it's vertical, and then click. It's a small line. Then escape. Then I need another conic arc. Start at the end point of that, and then it's going up and around. Go ahead and reference the top. So this one goes up to the top of my reference line there. And about right there. Then we need a regular arc, 3-point arc, attached to the end of that. and then another line segment to finish the shape, small one there. All right, so the general shape, you can see it's just still quite a bit wonky. So we're going to add some constraints here to let it be like nice and smooth as the transition goes through the different line segments here. So the first thing we want to do is a vertical relationship between this point and the radius point. So go ahead and do a vertical constraint between there and there. And then we have a bunch of tangent constraints. So find the tangent constraint. So between the line and the curve, and then that's the arc, and then the arc and the conic arc. Whoops, that shrink it up. So let me add a radius value here first. So this is, I've had some issues with this collapsing or going weird, so I'm going to go ahead and add this measurement point. It should be a 0.03. All right. So we can see, since we don't have any anchor points in our drawing or measurements, as you're adding your dimensions, it can really go kind of weird. So I'm going to help try to avoid that by going slow here. So we want the tangent between that arc and the conic arc. Same thing between that and this vertical line segment. And then we also want the tangent between that line segment and the other conic. All right, so that really changed things. Let me go back. I'm going to try to do this one first. See if we can straighten this out by doing that. There we go. And then we had the one here, tangent to that. All right, so it really stretched things out, and it's just assuming just a random shape. I don't know why it does that, but we're just going to work with it. So now we need to add the actual dimensions. So these are all the constraints that we have. Now let's add the dimensions. So we're pretty close on a few of these. Let's go ahead and add from the bottom. This should shrink it in from this point to this point. This one should be 0.125. All right, and then we have hope that didn't stretch out my phone measurement. We'll see. Then we have 0.1 at the top. So between this point and this point, 0.1. And then between this point and this point, 0.325. And then the overall height here from this point to, let's say, this point, is 0.4. All right, and then we've got from this point to this point, 0.25. And then from this point to this point, 0.3. All right, those are all the measurements that we have. So it should be completely defined here. This should be 525 instead of 0.5. Everything else should be correct. All right, so here's the profile of our phone. We're going to go ahead and just get rid of any extra geometry that is not needed anymore. So I had a couple construction lines. I'm just going to go ahead and delete those, accept the sketch. And the next thing we're going to do is sweep this profile around the shape of the phone. So find the sweep tool. We're going to choose the Sketch 2 geometry. And then we're going to click on the sweep path option and then choose Sketch 1. And you can see we've created a new surface by sweeping that profile around there. Click the check mark to accept it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cap off the bottom with another surface. So to do that, we're going to create a sketch on the top plane. And then what we're going to do is we're going to transfer the edge of this surface onto our sketch by using the Use tool. So that's how you get references from other sketches onto your current sketch. So first thing I'm going to do is create a selection. So I'm going to right click. This is the easiest way to do it. You could go around and click on each of these edges, but that just takes time. So here's a pro tip. We're going to select, scroll over select, and then create selection. Now we want any of the tangent or connected lines. So just leave that as it is, and then select an edge. You can see that is dark yellow or almost orange. And then all the other edges are a lighter shade of yellow, indicating that if I would select the Add Selection button, it would add 8 edges to one selection. So click on Add Selection. So now all of those edges are selected. And then I'm going to just click on the Use tool. And now you can see if I hide the surface, it has added those lines to my current sketch. So on sketch 3 is the outline of that. Now to make a surface out of this region, I'm going to offset a surface from this shape. So there's a tool for that. If you don't see it up here, that means it's hidden, and your extra tools are found if you can find your plane tool. I'm going to try to find which tool I'm using here. Actually, we got to accept this. Accept your sketch. So this is the menu that we're looking for. So here's the plane tool, and the tool I'm looking for is in here. So I want the offset surface tool. This offsets a region into a surface. So yours might be set to a specific offset distance, let's say 1 inch. And then it's asking for faces, surfaces, and sketch regions to offset. So I'm going to go ahead and choose sketch 3. And you can see as a reference, there's my original sketch plane. It's offsetting an actual surface, so now I have 2 surfaces, 1 inch away from that sketch plane. Now if you want it to be right where that sketch plane is, or where that region is, you would just offset 0 inches. So now it's right there on that sketch plane on the top plane. So I'm done offsetting surfaces. I'll click the check mark. All right, next we're going to create a screen for our phone. So we have a bottom. Go ahead and reveal all the surfaces here. We have a bottom and a side to our phone. Now we need to close it in by creating a screen. So now I'm going to create a new plane. So go back and find, it's set to the offset surface tool, which is the last tool that I use. So I need to click on the arrow to find the plane tool again. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and start a sketch because I want to sketch on this plane. So it's going to save me a step if I just start a sketch. Then I need to select a sketch plane. And before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. Actually, I think I can turn off both surfaces and reveal sketch 2. Let me find where we're at here. So this point here is what I want to reference in the sketch. And I'm going to click on the little mate connector option. And it's going to allow me to choose a point in a sketch. So I'm just going to hover over it. And this is the plane that I want to choose. So you want your Z to be aligned with that. That's the blue line. You want to attach it right there. So now we've started a sketch plane right on the end of that line. All right, now I'm going to reveal the first surface that I created, which was the outline, the phone. And I'm going to now reference the edge just the same way I did the bottom. So I need to create a selection. So I'm going to right click, hover over select, and create selection. And I want tangent as the option selected there. Then I'm just going to click on one of the edges, and I need this particular edge right here. All the other edges have turned a lighter shade of yellow. And then I'm going to click on add selection. And then click on the use button. So now I've transferred that shape to my current drawing. I'm going to go ahead and go through the steps of making that a surface by doing the surface offset. So I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and do the check mark. And then we're going to find that offset plane tool. So here's the current plane tool. Do offset surface. Then choose your sketch 4. And the offset distance would be 0 again. Alright, so I want all of these surfaces combined together into one solid. So to do that, I'm going to use a tool to create a solid that is called enclose. So right now it may be set to the Thicken tool. In the menu, find that tool and then click on the arrow and choose enclose. In this tool, I can choose all 3 surfaces which enclose a volume. And since there are no openings, everything is closed, it's going to form a solid. So go ahead and click a check mark to accept that. And we have successfully created the phone that we're going to use then to create the case that goes around. All right, now we're going to use the solid faces to offset our case. So in order to do that, first thing we're going to do is create a variable. A variable is useful if the value might change over time. So I'm going to choose a variable that is going to represent the space between the phone and the case. So it's going to have just a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm going to name this offset. And I'm going to choose a value of 0.025 inches. That's a very small gap, 0.025 inches. Then click the check mark, and it's just going to appear in our list of things on the left. So you can see the name has added the hashtag in front of it, and that's what we're going to use to recall this value. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and name this part. This is the actual phone shape. I'm just going to name it phone. Alright, so now I'm going to create a surface by offsetting. So we've done this before. So I'm going to go ahead and find that offset tool. Right now it's set to variable. Click the arrow and find the offset surface tool. And for my offset value, I'm going to, instead of 0 inches, I'm going to do the hashtag symbol or the number pound symbol. And you can see it recalls my variable option. I'm going to select that as the offset distance. Now I'm going to choose my surfaces. So starting, I'm going to select the bottom surface, and then the side surfaces that are just on the side. So there's two little sections here, one near the bottom and then a smaller one towards the top. So I'm just going to go around the entire phone and select all of those. You can see as I select the item, it offsets by that measurement, 0.025 inches. Should be the last one there. Alright, then click the check mark to approve the offset. Now I have a new surface. I'm going to go ahead and hide the phone for now and focus on this new surface. Alright, we're going to add to the top part of this surface by creating a sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and press the sketch button and choose the right plane as the option. I'm going to right click and view normal to sketch plane. Alright, so I'm going to focus on this end here, and we're going to add some geometry here. So we're going to start by adding a conic arc, and I'm just going to go ahead and create it here off to the side. Like that. And then I want this to be pierced through to attach to the surface. So I'm going to use that pierce option from the constraint list. Then I want to choose this point here, and I may need to orbit. So I can choose this edge. It's going to attach it right there. Alright, now I can view normal to sketch plane again. And I need some construction lines attached here to the end point, then to the vertical sharp point. And then those two are supposed to be equal. So I'm going to use the equal constraint. Now I'm going to add just a horizontal line to the end. click on the end point and make sure it's horizontally aligned. All right, now I'm ready to add some measurements. Actually, there's one more constraint. I want this to be tangent. So between this line and my arc, it should be tangent. Now I'm ready to add some measurements. All right, from this point to this point should be 0.1. Actually, I wanted it to be from this point. Let me do that real quick and delete that. So from this point to this point, 0.1. And then from this point to this point should be 0.15. Whoops. And it looks like this should be vertical. There we go. All right, that looks correct. We're going to accept that for our sketch. All right, now we need to make this profile a new surface that is added to the one we created earlier. So to do that, we're going to create a sweep. We're going to choose sketch 5 as our geometry, and then we need to choose the sweep path. So for that, I'm going to orbit so I can see the top edge, and I'm going to right-click to create a selection. Right-click, choose select, and create selection. Make sure tangent is selected. Then just click on one of those top edges, and then choose add to selection. So it has added all of those edges and swept the entire path. I'm done with the create selection, so I'm going to go ahead and close that box. And then I want to add this surface to an existing surface. So go ahead and choose the add option. And then it's already merging with all. And you can see my result will be one surface. So I'm not creating a new surface, I'm adding to an existing surface. Go ahead and click the check mark. So this represents the shape of our case. The next thing we need to do is thicken it. To thicken this and make it a real solid, we're going to use the Thicken tool. So it may be changed over to the Enclose tool. Go ahead and click the arrow, go back to Thicken. And then our face that we're going to use is the surface. And then you should already see a result, but it's way too thick. We're going to reduce that. And we're actually going to put in 0.0625. 0.0625. And then make sure it's going in the outward direction. So we want to thicken outward, not inward. So if you need to reverse that, you click the arrow. Make sure it's going outward. And then click the check mark. All right, so this is our phone case. The only problem is we can't get our phone inside this. So we're going to now focus on dividing this in half so that we can have an upper and a lower half that attach together. All right, we're going to start another sketch here on this front plane. So choose that sketch button and then choose the front plane. And I'm going to create some construction lines. And what I want to use is a surface as a reference, and wherever that surface intersects this drawing plane to create a construction line there. So I'm going to now use the, I'm going to find my tool here. So it's where the Use tool is, and we want to choose intersection. Now I can choose where something intersects that drawing plane. So I'm going to reference the inside curve right here, then this little straight section, the little flat panel there, and then the other curve on the top. And then I want to do the same thing on the inside. So I'm going to orbit so I can see the inside. I'm going to be grabbing this surface, then this little section here, and then this curved section. Go ahead and hide my part so I can see the resulting sketch. So this is what you're looking for here. I'm going to go ahead and view. We are on the front plane. So let me go ahead and view normal sketch plane. This is the back. So I want to reverse that. View from the front. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw just a little zigzag that's going to divide this space in half. So first I want to add a construction line. So go ahead and grab the line tool, and we're just going to add one in here from the midpoint to the midpoint there. And then I'm going to attach a line segment to this bottom. Actually, let's go from this. Just a small line segment. Then a diagonal, reference that, because I want this to be horizontal, attached like that. So now I want this to be the midpoint to go through. I think that's correct. Let's see what happens. I don't think I wanted that attached there. We'll find out. So if the midpoint goes through there, then we're good to go. I'm going to grab the point tool and just add a point. Let's add it on the midpoint of the construction line. And I'm going to now add a constraint, the midpoint constraint. So I want the midpoint of this line attached to that point. Now I want the smaller horizontal line segments to be equal. And now I can add a measurement. So I want this total to be 0.5. That's actually 0.05. And it is. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to escape out of that, and I need one more measurement here. The small line segment. Oh, I need the degree. Okay, so I'm going to get a degree, You want the two angled lines and drag out. Should be 125 degrees. Now everything's defined nicely. Go ahead and click the check mark. Alright, now we're going to use this new shape to create another surface. We're going to sweep this around a path. So we're going to choose the sweep tool and go ahead and reveal part 2. And then we're going to choose the newest sketch, sketch 6. So we only have one real line in there, even though there's some construction lines. And then we're going to choose a sweep path. And then we're going to right click, hover over, select, and create selection. And I'm going to choose an edge here. It's going to have 8 edges selected. Click Add Selection. All those are added to the list there. We are creating a new surface. Then click the check mark. I'm going to go ahead and hide my part so I can see that new surface. So there it is. Go ahead and reveal your part again. And what we're going to do is use that to remove a portion that it's going to create a dividing line between the top half and the bottom half. We're going to use the Thicken, which is found here. And I want to thicken the surface that I just used. So go ahead and select that. And what we're going to use that to remove from the case that we have. So the measurement needs to be correct in order for it to work. Right now it's trying to remove too much stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to 0.005, 0.005 in one direction. And then also I'm going to do it in 2 directions, so above and below the surface. 0.005. And I want to remove, and I haven't chosen my merge scope. So I want that to be part 2. So I'm going to be removing from part 2. It took a while to work itself out, so now I can choose a check mark to accept that. And since I've divided a solid into 2 halves, it's created a new part. So I have a top half and a bottom half. So I'm going to hide. That one's the bottom half, so I could label that case bottom. And then we have part 3 here. Go ahead and deselect all parts. Rename that case top. Alright, to finish out our case, we're going to create some cutouts for what would be a logo for the phone and also a camera. Alright, to accomplish this, we're going to need to orbit to see the bottom. And we're going to create a sketch and then reference the bottom surface as our sketch plane. Go ahead and click on that. Then I'm going to right click and view normal to sketch plane. All right, now I'm going to create a rectangle, but I'm going to use the center point rectangle. is going to be the cutout for my camera. I'm just going to get a rough estimate size there. And this is going to be very similar to creating the outline for our phone, the very first sketch that we made. I want a rounded rectangle, like rounded corners. So I'm going to use a conic arc in one of the corners here. And then just place that, except 0.5 is good. Then I'm going to create some construction lines. Just move this over. Horizontal and vertical. And then I'm going to mirror this curve all the way to all four corners. So I'm going to click the mirror tool, reference that line as my mirror line, and then move that arc over to the corner. And then I'm going to go ahead and get out of the tool, and then reference it again. And then my mirror line is going to be the horizontal line, and then choose the other two arcs. All right, now I need to erase the real lines on the outside of the corners. Use a trim tool for that. All right, now I'm going to create a tangent relationship between, no, actually it's going to be coincident. There, and then this is going to create some construction lines here. Whoops. Wanted that to be construction. All right. And these are all supposed to be equal. So I'm going to go ahead and do that relationship here. Equal. All right, that should do all of our basic shaping. So now we need to put some dimensions in here. So from here to here is 0.15. All right. Then the distance between point of origin and this center point, actually this way, so we can get it, there we go. Oop. Supposed to be 1 inch. And then from here to here, 0.75. And then top to bottom, 0.5. And then from the top to the point of origin, supposed to be 2.75. Alright, so there we have our camera cut out. Next thing we need is one for the logo. So this one's going to be a circle placed approximately, it's supposed to be vertically aligned with the point of origin. And then I'm just going to click to place it. Now I can dimension this. Is supposed to be a radius of, say that's diameter, 1.25. And the distance between the center point of the circle and the point of origin is 1.25. No, it's 1, sorry. Alright, so we're done with our sketch. Click the check mark to accept it. Now we're going to extrude our sketch. So I want to go ahead and click the extrude button. Then from the menu, we're going to choose Sketch 7. And then I'm going to go ahead and orbit so we can see what's happening. So the direction needs to be reversed. There we go. And then we want to use this to remove material from the case bottom. So that is already selected the case bottom, and it is definitely extruded enough. So the distance doesn't really matter as long as it's protruding through the solid that we want to subtract it from, and it is. So we're done with that. So you can go ahead and click the check mark and view your phone case. That concludes this third exercise with the surface modeling.